These are not scenes from a TV show or movie. This is the hard reality of life and death on the open ocean. A crew hangs on as their tugboat sinks. A teenager is pulled out to sea in a riptide.
Hold right here, hold. I'm coming in, we're gonna drop him. He's going under. Roger.
Two sailors are washed overboard into ice-filled waters. But in each case, lives were saved through heroic action by the United States Coast Guard.
They're coming up. I'm bringing them up slow. Bring them up slow.
Thank God.
They are a familiar sight on the vast waterways of America, but often people are left with one big misconception about the Coast Guard.
Baywatch. They see the helicopter in the beginning of Baywatch, and they think we get red bathing suits and we sit on the beach all day.
The real world the Coast Guard faces every day will surprise you. Tonight we'll show you who they are, what they really do, and how they do it. For those who proudly call themselves coasties, there is never any sitting around. When there's an emergency on the water, they get the call.
If a boat catches on fire, we'll respond and put it out. If people go into the water, we'll go and pick them up. If someone's breaking the law, we'll stop them and we can arrest them.
We're security. And that's what it's all about, and that's why people like us there. We provide comfort, and not only that, we deliver.
For 213 years, their mission has been to protect our nation's ports and coastline. Today, as the world climate shifts and the threat of terrorism looms, that mission takes on even greater significance. Join me as we go behind closed doors and out to sea with the men and women of the United States Coast Guard.
The Coast Guard's job doesn't stop at saving lives. Like cops on a beat, they protect our longest border, the coastline.
Well, the frontier of the Coast Guard is anything that touches the water. So it's all around the coasts and on the Great Lakes.
That's 95,000 miles of coast. Along any stretch, they may be fulfilling their missions. That includes everything from ice breaking to keep waterways open to protecting our natural resources. They also respond to about 4,000 oil and chemical spills every year. And the Coast Guard is on the front lines in the war on drugs. On an average day, they will confiscate nearly $10 million in illegal narcotics.
What do you think would surprise most people about the U.S. Coast Guard?
Its overall size. We're smaller than New York City fire and police departments.
That's just almost unbelievable. Smaller than the New York City Fire and Police, and yet you patrol all of our 95,000 miles of borders.
We are ready to respond 7x24 within a 2-hour period in our coast, yes. We stay busy.
The Coast Guard is actually the 5th branch of the military, with roots that go back to 1790 when just 10 boats made up the Revenue Cutter Service. It was first established as part of the Treasury Department. Today you might be surprised that the Coast Guard is part of the Department of Transportation. But when called on, the Coast Guard's role is extended to foreign shores. In times of war, they operate under the Navy Department. The Coast Guard was in action during World War II, and they've been pressed into service from Vietnam to the Persian Gulf. In peacetime, the Coast Guard stays busy at home. In the United States, when it comes to transportation-related deaths, boating fatalities rank second only to car crashes. About 700 people die in boating accidents each year. That's the bad news. The good news? In the same year, the Coast Guard will save over 3,000 lives.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. My boat's on fire, mayday.
What is your position and nature of distress, over?
I'm in Elliott Bay, and I've got a fire below deck.
Now, duty SAR crew, lay to your boat. Group Seattle has received a report of a boat fire, 3 POB in Elliott Bay, in vicinity of Terminal 37.
Search and rescue, or SAR calls, are the Coast Guard's bread and butter. Annually, they respond to more than 31,000 cases. The Coast Guard station in Seattle, Washington allowed me the rare chance to join the search and rescue team when they responded on a training mission.
All right, Joan, your lock is right there.
Okay.
Every coastie must be vigilant, like their motto, always ready.
Let's go.
In Washington's Puget Sound, anything can happen.
You have one of the most diverse waterways in all of the United States here.
That's right. There's the nation's largest ferry service, plus the Navy, and they have a huge presence here. They have the only Navy strategic subbase on the West Coast is here. We have it all. We have business, we have military, we have recreation, and it is a huge job to protect them all.
Okay. All right, Joan, let's get you set. Why don't you pull out your Type 3 vest?
Okay.
Just in case we get a law enforcement call today, we all want to be wearing the same thing, so there's no confusion as to who we are.
All right.
Let's go ahead and get that zipped up.
I guess you never really know what you're going to find when you go out there.
That's very true.
The most important piece of equipment is a life jacket. Coasties know that hypothermia is a killer.
Here in the Pacific Northwest, the warmest it ever gets is in August, and it might warm up to about 55 degrees. So the water is deadly, and without some protection, even the best swimmers can't make it. On the water, you can misjudge distances. They often think, well, that's not very far, I can just swim for it. And unfortunately, in my job, I find out time and time again how they cannot.
With a fire burning below deck, these victims decided to plunge into the cold water rather than risk being on the boat if it exploded.
Grab that life jacket.
I see one with that life jacket, okay?
Yep.
When we arrived on scene, the coasties had to quickly assess the situation. They focused first on the victim without a life jacket. He's in the most danger.
All right, as soon as you can, grab on. Grab on. Got it, grab on, grab on.
This was a training mission. In reality, on an average day, the Coast Guard saves 10 lives. Participating gave me new appreciation for the difficult mission they face. With the first victim safe, they turn their attention to the others.
The first victim's conscious breathing. Okay, what you do? I'm gonna come over here, I'm gonna sit you down right here.
After just minutes in the water, all 3 victims were freezing cold, numb to the bone.
We can go ahead and put him inside the cabin. Just keep him out of the elements, okay?
Roger.
Try to stay warm. Go down below.
The day I spent on Puget Sound was calm, but the Coast Guard must train at the margins in the worst possible conditions.
Hang on, break.
This is Cape Disappointment, home for the Coast Guard's National Motor Lifeboat School.
If there was a Coast Guard equivalent of Top Gun, it's there.
The school is located at one of the nastiest patches of the Pacific Ocean. Here on the Washington state coastline, ocean swells often reach a height of 20 to 30 feet.
It's where the Columbia River meets the Pacific Ocean, and that mix can be extremely dangerous, cause huge swells. The Coast Guard has self-righting boats that even when they get tossed upside down by these huge waves, they come right back up on their own.
It is very, very difficult out there. That area is known as the graveyard of the Pacific for a very good reason.
If you don't get scared, then I think you got a little bit of insanity in your blood. You're either crazy or you're a fool if you don't get scared.
About 50 coasties will graduate each year. The lessons start in a classroom for a week of studying, then they hit the surf. The lifeboat school puts to sea in 2 of their venerable 44-foot boats and 4 of the newer 47-footers. Both are designed for disaster. Should one capsize, it can right itself in 15 seconds.
But it's tantamount to an ejection seat in a fighter plane. It's nothing you want to use, but it's there to bail your ass out when it all goes really sour.
Just hold on, folks. Get ready to bring power up. Ready now. Bring power up. Everybody, hold on. Go in the window.
The surf can come at you from any direction. Rule number 1, never let a wave hit you broadside.
If you drop your guard for a split second, you will get slapped. Guaranteed, every time.
That's exactly what happened to this class. Caught in 20-foot waves, student driver Kathy Niles could see the wave but not outrun it. Suddenly, violently, a 2-story wall of water caught them broadside.
Hold on.
This is a game of roulette. You're put on a boat that's designed to go out in conditions that nobody else wants to go out in. You're asking for it. The question is, when you get what you ask for, you're going to be able to handle it.
Man overboard, starboard side! Keep watching my stern! No side of Oscar.
They still had to complete their mission, a rescue in heavy surf.
I got sight! Not even with the bow, about 10 feet off, coming down the port side! Search them! Back hard, back!
In this case, the crew successfully saved a 90-pound dummy named Oscar. This was training. It mirrors the difficult challenges that these coasties will face in real life. But when the surf boats may not be able to get to you, the Coast Guard calls in air support.